I was born and raised in the Emirates, a city called Abu Dhabi, the capital. I went to school there and I graduated from there and studied a bit in Lebanon, then moved back to the Emirates, studied a bit there, worked 3 years in many different fields, mostly in the tech field and in art and music. Then I never stopped studying, so I decided to continue my master's and I came to Lithuania. This country was one of my choices. I didn't know that it existed until my brother moved there in 2000. And that's when I was 10 years old. It was a new country, it was a new place to get acquainted to. So he moved here to study medicine and he fell in love, has a lovely family, and Lithuania was one of the options, and I chose it in the end because he's my only brother and I would like to be somewhere around him. And here I am, 7 years later. Another reason is that it's the EU, it's green, it's not hot. I was in a very hot country, but this is too cold. One of the doubts was that, is it gonna be too cold? I haven't been exposed to so much snow, so for me it was like this romantic idea of snow and ice and everything. Another thing was that being a musician and highly into playing music and performing art, I was worried that not too much is happening. So I did some research before coming, and it's not the dreamland I imagined to compare like to Germany or let's say Spain or Portugal in music, but it's happening and it's been on the rise since then. My other options were Glasgow, Oklahoma, and Belfast. The only reason I regret going to Glasgow or Belfast is because they spoke English there, but I'm definitely sure I'm much happier here. I haven't been there, so it's not valid. I've always been the kind of person who likes to go out of their comfort zone. So I try doing things. I try things that are interesting for me. One of the first things I did here was mix with the locals. It's really attractive when you go somewhere and travel somewhere to sit around people you're familiar with. But that is never attractive for me. So I made sure to go and find what the locals are doing. Because I once went to this thing called Hasna Festival or something, which is like a festival that happens in Old Town in Kaunas. It hasn't happened since the lockdown, and the amount of Lithuanians I saw there who was from Kaunas was surprising. I'm like, these people are here, they're out, and what are they doing when they're not showing up? So this was one of the things that actually got me more curious to figure out what all these people are doing, where are they hiding? I took that as a chance to understand where everyone's going, how they spend their free time, what they do in winter, what they do in autumn, what they do in summer. And I surrounded myself with people who I feel that would help me understand that. And yeah, I mean, it's not rainbows and butterflies all the time. What really was a game changer was starting to read and learn the language, because the language is how it shapes how everyone thinks. So I wasn't interested in my first 3 years to learn the language because my plan was to leave. After I graduated, I thought, I'm still here and I'm not leaving, so I might as well just start reading about the language and understanding what people are trying to say. Suddenly it started making more sense as time went on, how everyone thought and how everyone went on with their lives. Keys to get to their hearts, I haven't unlocked that part yet. 99% of my friends are Lithuanian. I do have a few friends who are not Lithuanian, but yeah, most of my friends are Lithuanian. I think it's not possible to befriend non-Lithuanians completely here, because it's like 95% of the population is Lithuanians. I've always been the kind of person who is not befriending someone according to their nationality or religion or race. Yes, naturally we are as humans attracted to people who look like us, talk like us, act like us, but I'm trying to stay aware of my conscious, unconscious biases. Yeah, most of my friends are Lithuanian. It has helped me integrate and assimilate into society much faster than someone who would just not mix in. The key to a Lithuanian person's heart, just be yourself, I think. Lithuanians, unlike, for example, us Mediterraneans, take longer to open up. There are lots of variables here to include the language, the way friendship is defined in Lithuanian culture. For example, in my culture, a friend of mine is entitled to come knock on my door at 11 p.m. and wake me up if I'm sleeping. If you do that with a Lithuanian, they won't talk to you anymore, you know? It's completely different. So my best advice would be to manage your expectations and just be open and try to understand how people define friendship here. It takes longer on average. Don't have the data, but it takes longer on average for a Lithuanian to open up. So sometimes it might take a few months, sometimes it might take a year, sometimes it's immediate. But yeah, just don't be afraid, be yourself. One thing in my culture that, for example, is a culture shock between Lebanese and Lithuanian culture is that we are immediately very warm and open and we let people into our houses immediately. In Lithuanian culture, that's like something that's done a year after, sometimes 2 years. You really have to deserve to go into someone's house. Well, xenophobia. Xenophobia is like the one thing that I understand where it's coming from. Yeah. I wish to fight, but it's not really my struggle. But it really disgusts me how someone looks at me and from my name or face, they just attach this like fear to me. And I see it on the street. I'm very observant of people's body language. Every kind of reaction, from denial to acceptance to apologetic, it requires work on both sides. You know, and it requires media involvement, it requires government involvement. The best way to fight it is speak up, communicate, express yourself, say that I found this offensive, not this is offensive, you know. It can be offensive, but the person in front of you might not feel that it's offensive. So yes, it got to me so many times. It created isolation in me until I understood that, yeah, it's not me, you know, it's like, it's media, it's like a lot of factors involved in creating this image. First tip I would share with you if you're coming to Lithuania would be learn the language. At least do the first 2 stages so you could manage to have a conversation in a supermarket, or like if you decide to go to an abandoned village, I mean not abandoned, just like a desolate village. It's also abandoned. Well, if you decide to go to somewhere that doesn't speak any other languages, just have a way to communicate with them. Don't worry about the grammar. It's like it's not something you could pick off like from the first 2 courses. And don't worry about constructing sentences, because what matters is that people would understand you, and the locals really love it if you would speak their language. So that would break the biggest barrier I found, the language barrier. Another thing is be prepared to wear long sleeves for most of the time. Don't shower and go out with wet hair, I guess. Something. People use body language here to communicate more than words. So for example, like if you were at a bus stop and people do understand excuse me or atsiprašau, people prefer to use body language to tell you that I would like to cross. So they would like fidget and move their things around and physically tell you that I'm passing from here. So try to read body language. Yeah, it might make some people uncomfortable if you are the type who uses words to communicate a lot of things. It might make strangers uncomfortable if you said hello to them on the street, because people don't say hello to each other on the street unless they know each other and they're in the same neighborhood. Don't be afraid to be yourself. I think don't be afraid to honor your culture, to honor your roots. Just be yourself. I maybe realized it the hard way that honoring my roots and my culture and myself and my identity and just being myself helped me come to peace, yeah. By now I'm 7 years here, so I have a similar kind of relationship with Lithuania that many of my local friends do. It's a wave of love and hate. Some days I'm like, I'm never gonna leave this place. On other days I'm like, I'm leaving tomorrow. And it's quite common. When I actually do travel and move around, at the first honeymoon stage of traveling, yes, I feel like, oh, I want to move. But then a week later, I'm like, oh, okay, I miss Lithuania, I want to go back.